Hello everyone, what is up? It is me, Ewan from What Culture Comics today, joined by Zoe, to talk to you today about actually Marvel and Hulk and Wolverine, because it seems as though Mark Ruffalo has been pitching his future in the MCU. While at Tokyo Comic Con, this comes by way of comicbook.com, who actually had the scoop, and yeah, do you want to actually hear what he had to say? It's really interesting.
You know, I do.
Exactly. So in this actual panel, he said that Kevin Feige just asked me last week if I had any more ideas or stories for the Hulk, which is a little bit concerning given you think Kevin himself would probably
like one or two,
ideas,
yeah.
And he said, and I said, yeah, I think there's still some stories to tell. And he said, well, why don't you come in and tell me about them, and we'll see if we can find a place for you in the Marvel Universe, which, implies that they haven't actually been going forward and planning phases 4 and 5 with the Hulk in mind, which is a shame given that Professor Hulk was one of the best things about Endgame, which is a shame. But anyway, yeah, going forward though, Ruffalo actually dropped this bombshell in terms of the ideas that he pitched Feige, saying, Hulk versus Wolverine. I'd like to see that. Hulk versus Wolverine.
I'd like to see that, is the thing.
What are your thoughts on that, Zoe?
It's perfect, right? Because when I think about the biggest fights I've ever seen the Hulk do, they're all in stuff like Old Man Logan, in the weird Ultimates one, where they would have to cut a lot out of that one.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of very good fights they could take from, even if they don't. Obviously, Old Man Logan is set in the future, so they couldn't directly use it.
And given we had Logan the other year as well, probably.
Yeah, it would be a good place to take inspiration from, even if it's not sort of a direct adaptation.
Yes, I have many exciting thoughts about this, because I think, well, not my thoughts themselves aren't exciting, they're just thoughts in an excited fashion, because obviously anyone who knows Wolverine will know that he made his debut in the pages of The Incredible Hulk number 180 and then later 181, and he's always been tied to that character. He made his debut fighting the Hulk and then Wendigo in that same issue, and yeah, the two, like Zoe just said, they have a massive history in comics together, whether that's them knocking 10 snots out of each other or actually teaming up and doing some cool things that way. And, it's not necessarily an even matchup either. Hulk may be the strongest there is, but Wolverine is also indestructible. So that's a nice little, when an unstoppable force meets the movable object type energy going on there. And it's quite interesting. I would definitely think it could work as a standalone film. Obviously, Marvel fans who are more into the animation side of things will know that we had the Hulk vs. series in 2009, where we had Hulk vs. Thor and Hulk vs. Wolverine. It was kind of where I really remember Deadpool getting massively popular with that film. Yeah. I mean, that was the thing that came out like 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Anyway, that came out 10 years ago. I can't say 10 years ago without dying a little inside, but that came out 10 years ago, and yeah, so there's definitely potential here, I think. There are so many different Hulk versus Wolverine matchups. My only concern is that, obviously, with Marky Mark now being a kind of smart Hulk, the concern there is, why would Wolverine necessarily want to go out of his way to fight the Hulk? And in introducing the X-Men, is it even possible for that to happen necessarily in the way that we're most familiar with? Because I think after Civil War and Batman vs. Superman, everyone's a little bit tired of superheroes fighting other superheroes. I know I'm kind of fatigued by that whole thing, even though I would be down to see this happen, at least for a bit of a film.
I think the very interesting thing is, obviously with Professor Hulk in the comics, it's a temporary state, so there would be potential for them to sort of move him back to the old school Hulk and sort of see some development that way. But yeah, I think it's particularly interesting because obviously, like, although we have seen so many fights, this is the one that I would say is bigger than any of the others, because there's so much potential for just absolute chaos. Like Civil War, they are bound by the fact that obviously they don't really want to destroy areas.
And they're bantering each other on the airport as well.
Batman vs. Superman, both their mothers are called Martha, so they can't fight for that long,
Just obvious. Unless they actually do a Martha retcon in this fight, actually. I would be here for that.
That would be the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this would be probably the best way they could go into another fight film without it feeling like, they fight and then they make up at the end and everything's fine.
Yeah, the thing is as well, even though I've definitely been down for having the Hulk be an Avenger in the MCU, there is still definitely, there's no arguing with the bulk of the character's, bibliography is him on the run as a loner, as a horror monster, walking through the Canadian wilderness, or the American wilderness, and obviously when he goes to Canada, that's how he finds Wolverine. So I definitely think, even though I'm here for the new status quo of Smarty Smart Hulk, I'm also very much here since, coming into Immortal Hulk, I'm definitely here for the more kind of not necessarily cooperative, shall we say, version of the Jade,
it's a nice
Jade
way
Giant.
of saying it.
And I definitely think that there's potential for that to go there, because frustratingly, the only times we've really seen the Savage Hulk on the big screen was in the Ang Lee film, which was really bad, and then in the Ed Norton film, which had its redeeming moments, but at the end of the day was a pretty poorly put together movie. I thought I did like Tim Roth as Abomination, but there was definitely so much going on in that film that really didn't gel together in the end. And it's a shame because I really, really would like to see another proper, maybe, we get to see Mark Ruffalo do a proper character study on the Hulk, make him on the run, do this whole isolation story. And that would be a little bit sad after what all this stuff he's gone through in the first, 3 phases of the MCU. But would you agree that there's definitely still loads of scope there to do more traditional Hulk stories?
You've raised a really good idea in the sense of even if they don't do it as something in the MCU, even if they do it as a separate spin-off, with the popularity we've seen with these R-rated superhero films, the idea of having a genuine horror film with the Hulk, because so much of his stuff is horror, and yet we only see him like, I'm such a silly, friendly man, instead of like destroying stuff like he maybe should be. It would be such a cool idea to have it go fully the other way, like, you like Mark Ruffalo being a friendly boy? Well, he's killed everyone you've ever loved. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like, I think one of the best things about the 2012 Avengers film, which I personally don't think, just to get a spicy hot take in there, I don't think that film's aged particularly well, but I do like the stuff that they do in regards to Ruffalo really kind of hammering home the horror of the Hulk, and you have that great sequence as well where he's transforming on the helicarrier, chasing down Black Widow. If they can apply that energy to make it more consistent throughout an entire film, I think there would be success there. Again, my only anxiety would be, are Disney necessarily going to be interested in making a Hulk film?
The Disney horror film, yeah.
After putting him in a nice little jumpsuit and him saving all of reality by wearing the Infinity Gauntlet and doing all of this. So that is my only concern. I definitely think it's a great thing that Mark Ruffalo is thinking about stuff like this, because again, it goes to show that he's just a great man, he knows what he's doing. But at the same time, logistically speaking, do Marvel have the facilities for this kind of story?
Are Marvel willing to make like a straight up R-rated horror? Is the real game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in Immortal Hulk you have Hulk literally absorbing people into his skin, and then getting dismembered and being put into different jars and stuff, which, again, I'd be here for in a film, but I'm not necessarily sure that the kiddies will want to pick up a nice little Hulk ice cream
and
come in.
A jarred Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. We've already had the discontinuation of Hulk hands, so it's like, can we really have horror Hulk hands? I don't even know.
Name of my new band, Horror Hulk hands.
But exactly, I think in terms of like stories they could pull from, I think we both name dropped Immortal Hulk today, and I think that would be a great way to kind of. But actually, Immortal Hulk, now that I think about it, has the precedent to do a post-Avengers Hulk story, because obviously in Immortal Hulk, this involves Banner after he's been murdered in Civil War II by Hawkeye, upon his own request, I should probably add, just to spare Hawkeye's blushes. But, that involves him basically kind of going on the run and trying to stay away from the Avengers, and the Avengers are a big presence in that first arc as well. So I think maybe, if Marvel are going to look for Hulk stories, obviously they've already dipped into the Peter David batch with the Smart Hulk stuff. I think if they looked at Al Ewing and Joe Bennett's series, that could give them massive success if they can curtail, maybe it's slightly more, not that it's more horrific roots, I just mean it's more visceral kind of leanings.
Yeah, you have to really be delicate with how you balance sort of some interesting existential horror and also him just ripping a man clean in two and being like, what? And what?
Yeah, and what? And what? Yeah, I find that really interesting because obviously there were loads of supernatural threats. I don't know if you guys remember the 90s Hulk cartoon, which actually kind of scared me. I remember the intro being really terrifying. Obviously you had Spider-Man and the terrifying clone stuff going on with Hydro Man and MJ and him screaming, going, no, as she dies. And then obviously you also had the Fantastic Four cartoon, which was really cheesy. The X-Men cartoon had some really dark moments as well. But I do remember that Hulk cartoon being absolutely terrifying. And there are so many different things they could do with the character in the MCU going forward. We have, the different personalities. You wrote an article a while back and I did the video for what happens to every version of the Hulk. You've got Joe Fixit. You've got so much stuff you could do there. And that would allow Ruffalo to kind of lean into the different personalities of the character. Like, I would actually love it if we had a Hulk film where he's going through all the different phases.
I want to hear him do the Joe Fixit voice.
The Joe Fixit
That's what
voice.
I want from the Hulk.
How do you think Joe Fixit sounds? Is it more of a Fat Tony or a Don Bart from Futurama type thing?
I think regardless of where it goes, I'm there for it.
Yeah.
I'm there in the front row.
Yeah.
There for it.
And also the best thing about this, obviously, is that now that Ruffalo is thinking about doing a Hulk versus Wolverine movie, that means we're one step closer to a Hulk versus Thing movie where everyone will get to see the nightmarish under-skin tones of Benjamin Grin when he lost his rocks, literally.
Why are you going to bring me back there? Why are you going to bring me back?
It all comes back to there. It's still just the image plays over and over again in my mind. It's terrifying. Yeah, the Ben Grimm, the rocks aren't just, they don't go all the way through, folks.
Why don't they go all the way through?
They don't go all the way through. But yeah, please let us know what you think of Mark Ruffalo pitching to Kevin Feige a Hulk versus Wolverine film. I'm personally excited about the prospect, even though it's difficult to see how they could do it initially. But yeah, please let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and head back on over to whatculture.com/comics. We've nearly broken 500,000 subscribers, so we'll have more stuff to come in the weeks ahead, which is really exciting. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at YouMoonsThings. You can follow Zoe on Twitter at
Zemaskel.
I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.